welcome to the 9th, I always do this, I should probably check beforehand, 9th episode of the Friends of Mine podcast. Me and Dean are joined by Aaron today, our first guest on the podcast.
Yeah. Are you privileged?
I feel honoured.
Well, I'm very glad about that.
You should,
Yeah.
you really should. So I think, dive in the deep end a bit, I think it would be nice for us to sort of get to know you a little bit about your story. So would you like to take the floor and tell us a little bit about your mental health journey?
I certainly will. So, right, where do I start? So, basically, when I was a lot younger, so I'm 41 now, when I had a bit of a dodgy childhood, shall we say. So, parents split up, like some parents do. Was homeless for a little while, which was a challenge. Then lived with my grandparents, got moved about a bit. Then went in the army, got bullied. Came out of the army quite quickly because of the bullying. Then got into an abusive relationship for 3.5 years where I was basically physically and mentally abused by someone for 3.5 years. Escaped that, luckily. However, at that point in time was my lowest point where I'd literally planned on how I was going to commit suicide.
Wow.
So I'd literally got this foolproof, what I thought was a foolproof plan because I didn't see any other way out. And it took me a long time to actually deal with that until literally when we had the first lockdown. Oh, wow. So the first lockdown was where I realised that throughout my life, all the stuff that I'd gone through, I'd literally pushed deep down. And I'd done things like going to the gym to try and deal with the mental piece of it and things. As soon as lockdown happened, obviously gyms shut, cinemas shut. I had no way of escaping everything that was in my head, like a lot of people. I didn't drink, so it wasn't like a turn to drink or anything, so I literally just completely fell apart mentally. And luckily the company I work for would have a really good medical private medical healthcare. So I was able to reach out to someone there and got diagnosed quite quickly with depression. And then had to then deal with all the challenges through my life that I hadn't even thought about. And so I had things like CBT that I know you guys have talked about, a thing called EMDR as well to go through the physical abuse. When that got brought up in my therapy, I literally had to relive it. And there was elements that were possibly the hardest things I've ever had to think about to deal with. And that then the therapist, who was really good, and it was Zoom, so it wasn't proper face-to-face, but it was as good as we could get at that time. She suggested EMDR, which I wasn't sure whether it would work. And as a typical male, I was brought up that you don't talk about feelings. Yeah. You man up, you grow a pair, you don't talk about these things. And I found it a real challenge to talk to anyone about my mental health struggles, and the fact that I'd literally come up with this plan and had this plan still of how to kill myself. And it wasn't until I talked to a therapist who actually said to me, she was like, anyone that had gone through what I'd gone through would have mental health issues.
Definitely, yeah.
But I mean, I was from about 6 to really about 38, where I hadn't even dealt with that. So I'd gone my whole life using things like drugs, alcohol to try and combat any issues that I'd done. Or I'd use a technique where I'd just push it to the back of my head and try not to think about it and think that I was doing great. But then some things, so life would change or I'd have a difficulty and I'd just fall apart. But I never really thought that it was, and that's a lot, sorry.
No, I was just trying to break all that down, like no wonder, I mean, parents breaking up is a big thing. Again, there's people out there, we've got friends whose parents are broken up. it affects them more than they will probably care to admit. So that's a big thing. But so then I didn't know that you were ever homeless. I mean, can you touch on that experience?
So and it was the whole family, so it wasn't just me that was homeless. So we were basically kicked out of our house, and at the time my parents were very into Christianity. So we then lived at a vicarage, but then my parents fell out with the church, so we were literally all on the streets, which, I mean, I was, about 5 at the time. So I was really little, and my parents, I mean, they struggled with it a lot, because my dad, his view of parenthood was have a roof, have food, and the fact that he couldn't do that for his family was tough.
It's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah. And they try to make it oddly fun for the kids. It was like we were camping out type thing.
Breaking when you look back.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that pursuit to happiness that we see. Where he tries to, I suppose, protect the child, and that's what they're obviously trying to do. Trying to make the best, I suppose, out of a awful situation.
I mean, we were quite fortunate that we weren't on the streets for very long, but it gave me a level of respect for homeless people that not everyone, I think, has.
No choice.
I was thinking about that the other day, or yesterday, I think it was actually, because I was thinking about it in terms of like the substance abuse thing. I was thinking like before, because I think I spoke about it on here before, but around my late teens, early 20s, I struggled with that quite a bit. And before then, I really found that I was one of these that was quite judgmental of it, if you know what I mean. I was thinking, why are they doing this to, you call them crackheads and all this stuff. And then I think sometimes it's not when you actually go through it and you have like this real respect and you realise the reasons they're doing it. It's always stems from something they've been through. Usually, I don't think there's too many people that have a big issue with stuff like that and use drugs and alcohol. And I suppose that's the same with homelessness. I suppose unless you really go through that in some sort of respect, you're never going to truly be able to sort of understand and empathise with them, sympathise.
And most people don't choose to be homeless.
No.
It's not a life choice of, I know, I'm going to go live on the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I've done it as well, like, I think we probably all have at some point where they ask you for change and you just sort of pretend to look at your phone when you walk head down. And one thing that I do quite a bit actually is we'll say, look, if you want something to eat, we'll go and buy them a sandwich or something like that. I suppose wrongly or rightly, always a little bit, I don't want to give you money because...
You might go and drink.
And that's really judgmental because, like you just said, you go homeless, drug addict, alcoholic, blah, 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 and that's, as you're a perfect example of, sometimes it's just bad luck that's put someone in that situation.
Another thing I was thinking about when you talk about the army, we're talking about like the stigma around, men not being able to talk about their feelings. Do you feel like being in that real sort of obviously male masculine environment of the army, do you think that really imprinted in you that I shouldn't really speak about this thing? Do you think that had that sort
majorly of so, and plus my dad was his view of masculinity is jaded. I mean, he didn't have much of a father anyway, so he had nothing to go by, but he was, and still is to this day, a very much men should be men and not talk about feelings and things like that. Yet he's tried to commit suicide 3 times. So he's like, he doesn't talk about his feelings, but then he's tried to do that.
Cry for help, isn't
it? Yeah.
I think that's that older generation though. Like I know I work with some people who, I could have said to me like, oh no, people just need to man up and, get on with it. He's a man. Do you think that's the problem? That's why there is such a high rate of men's suicide, men's mental health, because we don't think you can talk about it, and that's what we're trying to do. And you coming on today, and obviously we spoke a bit on Facebook, and I didn't realise that you were homeless. Didn't realise you were in the army.
With the homeless thing isn't something I've told many people, to be honest, apart from now. Loads of people.
Yeah, now everyone's listening.
Yeah, but it's just... It's a thing, I think I've blocked it the most. And it wasn't like it was horrific at all. Like I said, my parents tried to make it fun and make it like camping and things like that. Not that I really like camping now. But, but that's through choice. But yeah, the army thing was, I was young, and I'm from the northeast of the country, and generally where I lived, it was either you go in the army or you worked in a call centre. Didn't fancy call centre, so I went in the army. Came out and then ironically worked in a call centre.
Oh, so you done both?
Yeah.
So, how long were you in the army for?
Only 6.5 months. So I went in November 99 and came out April 2000. But it was right at the time where they started letting homosexual men in the army. Now, in basic training, they literally were so homophobic. Like literally shouting so much abuse at everyone. And it was, I mean, I'm not a homosexual. I just don't know. Not that it matters.
No.
But it was like, it felt really repressive and horrible. And then I got past basic training, which was great. I enjoyed that element to a certain extent. And then got put in with 3 other guys. They made my life a living hell to the point where I slept on my friend's floor in his room and they actually urinated in my bed. So when I left the army, I had to take my mattress, which was stained, to the stores and explain why there was so many stains in it.
Oh. And how was that received from the, were they interested?
So no, the corporals, again, it was a matter of, I'll just deal with it, man up, get on with it. It's part of the thing. I'm like,
it's not now, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not. I suppose, like, I think we've touched on it as well. Like that's a real intense be a man atmosphere in that generation. Anyways, even 20 years ago, there was no talk of it, like in general, let alone putting yourself in the environment where there's a lot of people who are trying to prove that I'm the toughest and I'm the strongest, and yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for that. I don't even know. I couldn't be in the army. I don't like getting cold, wet, anything like that. So I'd be no good on that sort of.
Ironically, I really don't like being told what to do either, without questioning it. Which going in the army, but at the time I was a very impressionable young lad that was like, because I originally wanted to go into the Royal Military Police, but I went into the signals because I was persuaded that was an easy way in, but I never got there.
I suppose as well, like the awful cycle, not that obviously excuse it in any way, shape, or form, but you guarantee the reasons as well that they were probably being like that, as they were probably dealing with a lot of shit themselves, you know. It's that horrible, in that male environment, they probably feel like they can't speak, so their only way is to, like you say, try to prove they're men and bully, and it's, I think, really, if we want that type of thing to stop, it's stuff like talking to each other is really going to help, but it's just how do you get through to those people in that environment? It's so difficult.
And I mean this in the nicest, to say it in the nicest way possible, but they almost try to pick on what they think is the weak link.
Yeah.
So do you think you were targeted? Do you think they looked at you and thought, Aaron's a weak link, we're going to target him? Or was it because you gave a bit back to them?
I think, because I questioned some of it. They didn't like it. Yeah. And the one thing that's always baffled me about, not that I'm against the armed forces, I love them to death. I've got some friends that have been in the army for years and years. Yeah. But what has always baffled me is they don't do a mental check on people before they give them a live weapon, tell them how to shoot it, how to kill someone. Yet they've not done any sort of mental stability check on anyone before that.
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah. Is it still like that? Is it still like that now? Do you know? Or
I'm not sure now, but when I went in, there wasn't anything like that.
And I might be wrong. Was that so? I take it you weren't there long enough to ever be deployed. No. But was there talk of being deployed, or? So
at the time,
was it.
Well, if I had stayed in for about 2 years, I would have got deployed. But and then I would have had to have gone to places like Afghanistan.
I can say that sort of time it was all
Northern Ireland and stuff. I was just
Okay.
lucky that I got out when I did, to be fair.
And then when you left the army, what after that? What was?
So, left the army at 17, then worked in call centre, got with, I call her psycho bitch, to basically dehumanise her.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to deal with it than actually say her name, and I won't say her name anyway.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, I got with her when I was 18. Again, still very impressionable, and she controlled every aspect of my life to the point where I cut all ties with family, friends, everything. And she didn't start off abusive. It was the mental side of things, and then it progressed to the point where she stabbed me in the arm and then blamed me for that.
Jesus.
Yeah. Aren't you glad you got me on first?
Yeah. Blimey. So, I mean, obviously build into that as much as you want, but
Yeah.
what was the first point where I suppose you realised shit, basically, or was there other people saying to you, you know, this isn't normal, mate, like this, what?
So the moment, so when I went through therapy and realised the moment that I felt I had to get out of that situation, we were on holiday at the Isle of Wight, and she was beating me up, and I was literally cowering in a shower, crying in literally a ball. And at that point, I knew I had to escape it somehow. I didn't have any idea how to. I didn't reach out to anyone or anything. I just knew that if I didn't get out there, I'd be dead one way or the other. Either she'd kill me or I'd kill myself. So I decided when we got back home that I would try and... So we were living together as well at the time. I'd try and get her out of the house. Tried to get her out of the house, which is when she stabbed me in the arm. And then tried to blame me. I'm laughing about it because it's not funny in the slightest, but the way I get through it is to try and laugh about it. So when she stabbed me in the arm, I was like, nah, I'm like, you're going out. And she... when she tried to blame me for it, I was like, I even got the knife off her and like was just like going, how on earth could I possibly get you to stab me in the arm? And I had to physically drag her out the house because she lied down and would not move. So I dragged her out the house, locked the doors, and got the locks changed the next day.
And did she take that, or did she come back again? Or?
I know she tried to get the police to get her back in the house.
Right.
And I was quite fortunate that I had met someone who lived down here, and I used that as an escape. And I got 200 miles away from her and didn't look back.
Have you heard anything, seen anything since?
So the most irritating thing was I sold the house and had to give her money for the house sale. That for me was like, I was like, really, come on, that's a killer.
I can see by just looking at you that still pisses you off.
Oh
now,
yeah, mentally. So
later.
I'm like, she literally made my life hell, and then I had to pay for the privilege of it. I mean, that for me was like the final, like, really what? Yeah. Yeah.
So then you moved down here and
so
start again.
Well, so the I can call it a problem. So the thing I had was I met a lady who's my daughter's mum, who showed me kindness, and I hadn't had kindness from a woman, like pretty much, apart from my mum briefly, in my life. So I then mistook that for love. Got with her, had a child with her because that's what she wanted, and again I was still in that mindset of having to not necessarily having to please someone, but I was in a bad place mentally, and to the point where she'd go to touch me and I'd freak out. And I knew she wouldn't hurt me, but it literally, I was that mentally scarred from evil bitch that I couldn't deal with a woman touching me. And even now, although I've had the therapy and everything like that, if a lady is behind me and touches me in a certain place, and I know who it is, I still have that mental, like, shit, I'm going to get hurt here.
Yeah.
And that's what, 23 years.
Well.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I take it took you a hell of a long time to build up trust again.
Oh, majorly so. And, well, see, the thing is, so I tried not to bring that into relationships because I know not every person will hurt you. And I know that, but at the same time, it's that defense mechanism. So after Evil Bitch, I literally bulked myself up that much. I looked like I was carrying, like, huge. I got very, very muscular because I thought, if I'm that muscular, no one will be able to hurt me. But mentally, I was messed up, majorly so.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously I'm hearing all this obviously for the first time, so always trying to process it and
sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. So you then moved down here.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was the next stage? You had counselling while you were with this.
So I didn't actually get counselling until COVID.
Okay.
So I hadn't dealt with any of this or spoke to. So the lady that I was with, so my daughter's mum, she knew a little of what had happened. She only knew the bits that I could talk about. So there were elements like the shower thing. I hadn't told anyone. The fact that I'd got myself a suicide plan, didn't tell anyone. And I told her that she knew that I was abused physically. But no, so I genuinely had gone through that relationship, then I ended that relationship, got another relationship, didn't tell her anything about it, got with another relationship. She knew a lot more because I was starting to talk about it a lot more. But until, the therapy, I couldn't deal with a lot of it. And it was only when I started talking about it, and at first talking about it really was difficult, and it brought back a lot of, so what I didn't realise until my therapist said was that when I started talking about it, I used to get closed, and I used to go back mentally to that place and like make myself smaller and tighter and clench and things like that. And it was only through EMDR and CBT and talking therapy.
What is EMDR?
Sorry, it's eye movement distraction. I can't remember what the R stands for. But basically, so what was happening was I was talking through it and the therapist was moving her finger, so getting my eyes to move. Because when you generally remember things, you look in one particular direction, but if your eyes are moving, it somehow, I don't know the exact science of it, but it makes you relax a bit more. And so, I literally spent, I think it was about 9 months going through EMDR before I got to a comfortable place. So they rate your memories of how difficult they are. So there was ones that were like 10, others that were low and low and low. And we worked through the low ones first to work up to the big ones. Because the big ones, so the shower one, I wasn't able to talk about for months and months.
Which isn't a surprise.
No. But I still think my suicide plan was quite foolproof though.
Do you want to
tell you about it?
Yeah, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah. So basically the plan was get blood thinners, get some painkillers, get a serrated knife and cut from my wrist down to my forearm on that arm and then do the same on the other arm. But be in a bath. because I was conscious that I didn't want anyone to have the problems of cleaning up, because you could just turn the tap on, then all the blood would go.
Do you feel like, obviously,
Sorry.
don't answer this if you don't want.
Yeah.
No. Do you feel like there was a particular reason, like you didn't go through with it? Was there something you thought of maybe, or?
So the reason, my dad tried to commit suicide 3 times, and the impact it had on the people that, 1, found him unconscious, 2, the family. So no one who thinks about suicide thinks that anyone will care if they're gone, has any other way out, but everyone does. Yeah. So everyone will be missed by someone. So I'm getting a bit emotional.
No,
good.
Everyone will be missed, no matter how we feel.
100%.
It's good, mate. It's good. Don't worry.
It's beautiful.
It's brave of you to open up, mate.
Yeah. No, it's understandable to get emotional.
How old? Sorry, again, we don't have to talk about it, but how old were you when you tried to, or you planned?
I was 19 years old.
19.
Yeah.
So you just come out of the army and you'd moved down here yet?
No, so I moved down here when I was 21, I think.
Okay.
So my plan was, whilst I was with Evil Bitch.
Yeah, it's
I guess you just got to the point where you just feel like that was the only escape.
Yeah, well, and so she was really, really good at controlling every aspect. So I felt like I didn't have, because I cut all ties with everyone, so I didn't have any friends, I didn't have contact with my family or anything. So I truly believed that there was no one other than her and her family that cared about me, that were there for me. And then I thought, well, hold on, this person doesn't really care about me, so therefore I've got no one and nothing, so what's the point of even being here?
Yeah.
Scary place to be.
Yeah, it's really scary. And I mean, people that, like I said, people that think about suicide or commit suicide don't think they've got any other option at all. And it's I think it's one of the biggest killers of men as well.
Yeah.
Again, as you guys have touched on before and today, a lot of men feel like they can't talk about things.
It's definitely, yeah. I think we've spoken, haven't we? Like, and you touch on there, people just, it is a last resort, you know, because I say people don't want to do it because there must be them that want to do it, but there's also they don't want to do it. They, like you just touched on, they feel like they've got nowhere else to go, no one else to turn to. I mean, yeah, what you obviously didn't, and what was that the light bulb moment where you just sort of thought, actually, like, no?
That's a good question. It's not one I've thought about, to be fair. So I think it was more the fact that I had, and this might be weird, so I had a dog at the time, and the one thing that stopped me was, who's going to look after the dog if I'm dead? It wasn't any human interaction at all. It was, shit, I've got a dog.
Yeah.
What if the dog finds me? It might eat me as well.
Yeah.
I know that's a creepy thing to say.
No, it's very true. Very true. So that was the dog saved your life.
Yeah.
Which is man's best friend. Which is why when you came in straight away, you're like, no, I love dogs. It's fine. Which is, that's fair, mate. I've never been in that situation, mate. So for you to open up, I think the reason we're probably both a bit quiet is almost like to have you being so honest is obviously a refreshing thing. So,
but I mean, the good thing is now mentally I am so much stronger, having gone through therapy, gone through MDR, CBT, and things like that. I still get moments where I struggle. So, very recently found out that my job is at risk at work, which has knocked me for 6. And changes like that still impact me, but now I know I can talk to people about it. There are places where you can go to ring or as you've mentioned, I think it was a place in Rushden.
Yeah, Mind,
Mind in Rushden, that you can go to, walk into, or ring Samaritans.
Yeah.
There are people out there that actually give a shit
Mm-hmm.
about people's mental health and men's and women's mental health.
Do you have any other tools as well? I mean, you seem quite a fit guy. Do you still go?
Yeah, so I do go to the gym, although recently I've been doing Strictly Northampton. So I've been dancing to keep fit. I run, although I hate running. I do hate it with a passion.
I'm with you on that.
But I do obstacle course runs and things like that, which helps people get over obstacles and things like that. So Tough Mudders and things like that. I love doing that.
And I suppose it's like as well, like silly as it may sound, that those obstacles, in some ways, you're thinking about them as mental obstacles as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes what you overcome physically, it's like lifting weights. They say it's so good because you know if you can lift this amount of weight, in theory, you can lift that mental weight, so to speak. But
and as odd as it sounds, it's so if I'm not doing well at work or something like that, I will randomly bake a cake or something, and that achievement makes me feel like I've actually done something and achieved something.
I'm a big proponent of creativity. It's something that really helps for me. I think we've touched on it before, but like that flow state you sometimes get in, it's so powerful because sometimes I strangely get it with like editing photos and stuff. Like I'm rubbish at it really, but like I'll go on Photoshop and just play about, and maybe sometimes a comedy effects, change people's faces to.
So can I ask you a question? Why did you say you're rubbish at it? So your first instinct was to go into a negative place.
Good point.
Whereas you're far better than me because I've never done it. It's like when I started the Strictly thing, I said I'm not a dancer.
Yeah.
But I was learning to dance. And I can dance now, so therefore I'm a dancer. But and it's not just you, so I do it all the time. I go negative. So I say I'm not a runner, yet I've run literally 35 kilometres, so I can run. But I say I'm not a runner. And my initial instinct and yours was to go to a negative place.
We always compare ourselves to other people, don't we?
Yeah.
And we never think about what we've got. It's always what we're lacking. I think it's total human nature, and I want to say especially among men, because of, again, I suppose it's that competitive thing, isn't it? It's like, I want to strive to be the best at Photoshop, and
we said before, you always want almost what you haven't got, so you look at it and you go, even stuff like I want a better car, I want a better, rather than I think just being content with what you've got and what you are good at. And I'm my own biggest critic with everything. I know you are as well. Like, I think we touched before, like even like compliments. I struggle to process that. I know you touched on it as well, like compliments as well. Like even if I said to you, like, that's really good, I've seen you sort of be like, oh, it's not. I've done this. That's a bit rubbish. So it's for Aaron to pick up on that. First meeting you is interesting.
But it's so, and again I'm going to talk about dancing, so apologies. No. But I had a real struggle with one particular dance, and I went to the gym, and the guy that owns the gym, he went, "Why are you being outsmarted by a baby?" I went, "What do you mean?" He went, "Well, babies fall over. You don't see them crying. They get back up. They try again." It's like, why are you being outsmarted, like mentally, by a baby? Yeah. I was like, all right, dude, that's a little harsh, but it's true.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because if you're, and I don't get me wrong, I still hate the jive, and will always hate the jive. But if I had gone with a mindset of, I might not do it, but I'll pick it up eventually, I would have then probably enjoyed the experience a bit more than I did. But
that's the thing. There's not a lot, I suppose. I mean, like I say, I do get it with Photoshop, but a lot of the time people do struggle to just do things for the enjoyment of it, because they always strive to want to get better. And I suppose that's like you say with you with dancing, like dance should be something you just enjoy in the moment, but you just have that thing in your back head, but this is not quite good enough.
I think we all do it. Even when we play football, you make a mistake, you'd have a bad game, and you rather than just we don't get paid to play. Like it's a hobby, but you just couldn't let it. It would bother me for like 2 or 3 days, rather than just going. And I'm in a bad mood most of the time, but I'd come home in a bad mood, and like Joe would be like, the dreaded words of it's just a game, which is to anger. But in context, she was right. Like it's not live or die. Do you know what I mean? I still get up the next day, go to work, do whatever. But for you to do, obviously touch on back in Strictly, so you'd never done any dancing before?
So I'd done not proper dancing at all, but what's it called? Clubber-size, which isn't dancing at all, but it's routine based. But yeah, no, I'd never danced a single step in my life. And then going to do it with 35 other people, seeing the fact that people are getting better already, and you're like, oh shit, why am I not as good as that person in that comparison? I mean, I literally had a moment, and I didn't, as I said, I didn't enjoy the whole experience as much as I should have done, because I went through stages of beating myself up that I wasn't picking up and going, hold on, you're an intelligent guy, why are you not getting its 4 fucking steps? But instead of going, well, I'll pick it up, it's okay, I'm doing okay at this dance. But it was just that mentality that I beat myself up a lot.
Now you know that.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
I wouldn't dance again.
No.
Because, well, no, so I wouldn't do Strictly again. However, I would definitely dance again. So my partner, I'm not going to name, and I are talking about doing another dance, one that we can both do together. And that for me was a challenge as well, is doing it with a complete stranger felt weird.
Yeah.
Whereas doing it with someone that you care about, you can both enjoy it then and get...
I suppose there's a kind of an element of vulnerability as well, I suppose, with dance, isn't there? Especially with certain types of dance, which again, I suppose, as being a bloke can be a little strange.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite a flamboyant guy.
Yeah.
Hence the moustache.
I love it.
It's a brave move as well, because I think people automatically, and again, I'm going to stereotype, but you think of blokes dancing and you just think, you're dancing for, you weirdo. And it's just what people associate with it. It's not seen as a thing that men do.
Yeah.
I might be wrong saying that.
No, I totally get it. And it's like, the guys that did it with me, so the men, they weren't flamboyant, some of them. So some of them you look at and go, hold on, you're dancing. I mean, there was one guy who was 6'3" and built like a brick shithouse, and you wouldn't expect him to dance, but he was well up for it, and he was throwing himself into it, and he got so much out of it. I mean, unfortunately, his father went to Cynthia Spencer, who he did it for, and died whilst we were training.
Oh wow!
So he like had such a personal journey as well on it. But yeah, he was fantastic.
It's funny as well, because they're most like people anyway when they get drunk, like in this musical. What's the first thing they do? When their inhibitions are gone, that's one of the first things they do. But
I mean, I'm glad you good at the robot, aren't I?
Yeah.
Glad you good at the robot.
But the stigma's still there when people are sober. It is a bit strange.
It's a weird thing as well. Like you touched on there, like drunk. Like I'm always up on the dance floor, just making a twat of myself. I'd never do it sober. Like I just would never. And it's just, isn't it weird that like. And that's why I admire you for doing that. To go out there, you don't drink, but to spend 8 weeks was it training, and then to go out and dance in front of how many?
1,200 people.
Jesus
Christ.
It was a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's I took my hat
just committing to something for 8 weeks is like an achievement anyway. Isn't it? I mean, I guarantee I'd have been the type of person that would have gave up after a while. I think
And I said to Dean before we started, during the process, there was one point in it where I was ready to quit because I wasn't picking it up. I wasn't necessarily enjoying it as much as I thought I was. But luckily for me, there was guys that I was dancing with, and also because it was for charity, that I was like, I have to do this. I can't possibly not do it, because I think I would have it wouldn't have been good for my mental health either to have quit, for me personally. And there were some things you should quit, but not that.
Fair play, fair bit. And that's something, obviously, you won't do Strictly again, but going forward, can you see it being a regular hobby now?
My partner and I have talked about going dancing, so probably, it'll be become part of my fitness routine, because I'd rather do that than run. Because running for me is monotonous and dull.
When I see you in a couple of weeks at Christmas, I expect a full
A
drive.
routine.
Yeah, I want a routine. Nailed down.
I'll do the tango, not
Yeah,
the jive.
yeah, as I'm there with my mince pie, I want a full routine in the living room. We can do that. That would be great.
That's a deal, mate.
Yeah, I look forward to that. So, how are you? Obviously, we've spoken about leaving the army, the abusive relationship. You were with you were married, you said?
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how much you want to touch on that, but do you want to talk about that? Or?
Yeah, so basically, I realised again during COVID, so when COVID hit, I was, I don't want to say trapped, but we were all housebound. And then when I was going through therapy, because it was in the house, I couldn't talk about my issues in my marriage because my ex at the time could hear everything.
Yeah.
So therefore, I wasn't able to deal with that either at that point in time. And no relationship is perfect, don't get me wrong, but there were elements in it that I felt like I was losing myself in the marriage, and I was doing things to please her rather than pleasing myself, and I felt completely like I wasn't being me, and therefore I wasn't truly happy. And as I found it really difficult to split, because I felt like I was going to hurt someone that I felt didn't deserve that hurt. And that was really, really hard to do. And I again had to go through therapy post that, because I basically thought of myself as a monster for hurting someone that I felt didn't need or require that hurt. And that was tough. But for me, it was better to do that than carry on and end up making us both miserable.
Yeah. And was there any inkling from her? Like, was she expecting it? Was there...
So she had tried to have conversations with me about why I was being different and things like that, to which I was just trying to push it onto COVID or other things and make excuses for it, because I didn't want to face up to it, which is ironic as to what I faced up to.
Yeah.
But it was because she was a nice person. It wasn't like she was horrible or anything like that. She just wasn't right for me, and I wasn't truly happy in that relationship.
Yeah. It's tough, but you've got to do what it's like, and you've done the right thing. You know, are you guys amicable now? If you, or?
I think she's still hurting, but we no.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. And now, how would you class your? Obviously, it can change day to day, but on a whole, your mental health now.
So I have far more tools to deal with the mental health. I still struggle. So, like I said, the recent thing with my job knocked me for 6. So I still, and I was actually talking to a friend about this recently. I was like, it feels odd now that I know what my mental health state is. At times it's harder than when I used to just push it right to the back of my head and not deal with it. But I know that then comes to a point where it all falls apart. So therefore, I'm now better at asking for help and going to the places that I need help for, either the tools of CBT or therapy. As I've said before, the place that I work at the moment has a really good health program where they've got like an employee assistant program and doctor at hand and things like that.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. So you feel probably more good days than bad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my life outside of work is fantastic.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I mean, work at the moment is pretty shit, but that's because of the situation I'm in.
Yeah.
But that will change, and the one thing that I'm trying to do is now look at things that I can control rather than things that I can't control. So I can't control the timelines, can't control the outcome right now, but I can control things like sorting out my CV, getting ready for a possible like job change and things like that.
Yeah, which is good. And we've again touched on that, haven't we? Sort of, control. You can't. And I've touched on, you can't control the cost of living, can't control mortgage rates. But what I can control is who I spend my time with and what I do with my time. And that's a good way of looking at it.
And time is the one thing you can't ever get back or more of.
Yeah.
And it's the most precious thing that you can possibly give to anyone.
We spend the majority of the time worrying
Yeah.
about the future and thinking about the past.
It is,
like you say, it's so precious.
Time goes so quickly, doesn't it? And we've touched on it, and not to bring the mood down too much, I look at it and go, I'm 32 in January. I'm the same age as my mum when she died, which is just, when you look at it like that, you think, wow, like it could happen at any time. So
that's the thing as well. We sort of approach life all the time as if we're sort of going to live to that, age expectancy. What is it, like 80, 90?
Yeah.
We always assume in the back of our heads all the time that we're going to. But like you say, it could be it tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's not promised, is it? That's the thing. And I think, like you said, with CBT, I think that sort of almost made me, from my point of view, just appreciate the moment more and stop, and I'm still not great at it, but stop trying to please everyone and make everyone happy. And even just using you as an example, like last night, we're out if you want to come out. In the old days, I had a banging headache and that, but I'd have gone, no, I'm going out because I don't want you to be annoyed that I'm not going out. Whereas I just gone to, mate, like, feel like, shit, I'm going to go to bed and watch I'm a Celebrity. Do you know what? And
sometimes it can be just you don't feel like it. That's the thing as well. There is that pressure in those social situations, because I've done it before myself, where like just want a bit of time to myself. But you don't want to let people down. Which always comes down to.
Well, last night I was at the after show party and there was a guy there going, "Oh, we're going on to the Boston." And this was like 2:00 in the morning. I mean, I don't drink anyway, but I was like, and he was trying to like pressure me into going. I'm like, do you know what, dude? I'm like, I'm done. It's like
I know who that is without you even having to say anything. So yeah. Okay, one thing. If you had one message for anyone struggling.
So my message would be, don't be afraid to ask for help. Because whether it's friends, whether it's mind, whether it's anything, there's always someone willing to help.
Which is good, yeah. And I mean, I've said it before, I'm a massive advocate of therapy, counselling, whatever you do. It helps me. I know that you've started doing CBT. I mean, we haven't touched on that this week. I mean, how are you finding?
Yeah, good. The last session went really well, actually. It was kind of one of those sessions where it was a bit like knocking back everything I said. But you need that sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm so arrogant in my approach to things in terms of my mental health. Like, I always feel like I have the answers, and the, stuff that happened when I was a kid, I always had this idea that my childhood was really good. Do you know what I mean? There's no blemishes really, other than, in my teenage years. But it was one of these where when I spoke about the past, it was, but of course that can affect you. And I was a bit like, well, no, and so it's very much knocking back the ideas that I had of myself and what has made me the way I am. Mm-hmm. And it really helped, because like I say, I think sometimes you need that outside perspective of somebody to just say what you went through can affect you, even if it's on a sort of varying scale. And I think sometimes if you've not had real sort of drastic things happen, you can sometimes think that, I don't deserve to have these feelings. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's like if my childhood is, it's like nothing anywhere near as bad, as what you went through, you almost feel like you can't feel those feelings.
Feel guilty
she was just not letting me. She was just saying, of course I can.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
There's, again, comparison. How you feel is how you feel.
Yeah.
About a situation. I mean, people have gone through far worse than I've gone through and have dealt with it. but I wouldn't compare, or I try not to. But it's human nature, isn't it, to compare?
Because we had the question as well that gentleman was saying before about how he kind of asked us the question, you know, do you feel like I should be feeling this way? And it's a bit like you said, like, that's how you feel. Of course it's...
Everyone has mental health, like, and people just deal with it, you know, differently. I think I'm more open, obviously, now than I ever have been talking about it, but in the past, it wasn't even a conversation. Joe will tell you, for the first 3 years we were together, like, it just wasn't. It was, he'd talk to me, he'd ask me, and I'd get angry, and that would be the end of the conversation. So, you know, I think everyone has. And again, I'd feel guilty for it, because I'd be like, even now when I struggle, I look at it and go, what if I've got a job and I've got a house and I'm married and I've got a kid on the way? Like, what have I got to be depressed about? But that's almost my right, like, to feel like that. But you do sometimes think, well, why? Like, almost like good guy, bad guy. Like, you shouldn't be depressed and feel guilty for being depressed. I think
that's a whole nother layer.
Which is and I think CBT was our therapy helped, but CBT for me was the one, I bet you, was the one that really, I suppose, took it onto that next level where, like you said, they're talking to you and you're like, they explain it so simple that you almost feel stupid for never thinking it as well. Like, they break it all down and then you go, oh yeah. Like why didn't I ever think of it like that? It's, I mean, I said CBT for me was the real turning point.
But a lot of people can be too scared to go and try it or ask for it, which is really unfortunate because, and I suppose it can come from different places. But again, I think sometimes if we go to therapy, it's like we're admitting it, and sometimes, you know, to ourselves, and sometimes we don't even want to admit it to ourselves. It's because I found that, I think I said before, like while sitting in the car before my first session, I was a bit like, had that, shall I just go home, just knock it on the head sort of thing. And I think a little bit of that was the sort of, not shame, I think that's a harsh word, but that, you know, I really didn't want to admit to myself that I needed the help. And I think that's something that's very difficult, but I do feel like conversations like this really help. Because part of me feels like if we didn't start doing this whenever it was 9 weeks ago, maybe I wouldn't have gone, if you know what I mean. And
it's making the conversation, hopefully by us doing this, it encourages someone to sit down with their mate, whether that's down the pub, at work, or whatever else. And I've touched on it, I've had 2 or 3 different times now, whether it's at football or at the pub, where someone who I never thought would speak to me about it sat down and sort of said, "Oh, I've seen your podcast, what are you doing it for?" Just having that 30-second conversation might make them reach out to one of their friends who is a bit quiet at the moment, might not be applying in the WhatsApp group, might not be coming out as much, and you might just think, and I've done it before, and I've been that person before, miserable git, like boring, reach out to them. I keep saying it, just scroll through your contacts and look at one person you've not spoken to for a while, send them a message, guarantee they'll reply, and I guarantee that there's a reason that they're not hiding, but hiding away.
Because it's a lot easier, isn't it, to not talk about it and think that, oh, it's okay, I'll deal with that tomorrow or the next day. And then the next day comes and no, I'll put it off again.
Yeah, it's easy then.
And then it's like, 23 years? And then you've still not dealt with it.
Yeah. That's such a thing. It's mad to think that like some of the first conversations I've had like this are like now. Do you know what I mean? Like 35 years old. And
it's mad.
Crazy.
It's mad what we forget we talk about as well. I mean, I said in a couple of podcasts ago that I'd been signed off work for different reasons, and then I was annoyed at Joe that she'd gone and told someone, and then I was like, I've just told whoever listens to this podcast. But my initial reaction was to be like pissed off. Do you know what I mean? And then you sort of look at it, you think, I've just sat here in front of the microphone and released on social media, so like can't really be too annoyed about it. But yeah, I think fair play for you. Like we spoke a little bit on Facebook, but for you to come on and
I'm thankful that you invited me, to be fair, and if it helps anyone, then that's good.
Yeah, hopefully it will, and hopefully you're the first of many.
Yeah.
That's
don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, I think we've got ideas of people we'd like on. It's just whether or not they want to take the plunge. I mean, you have what made you?
So listening to you guys talking, basically I was like, so for me, the more people that talk about it, the better. Because before I went through any therapy, I was like, nah, talking about it won't help. That's a load of rubbish. But it really does.
And sometimes you don't realise until sort of hindsight, do you? Like a few days after you spoke, it just feels like there's just a weight lifted off you.
I you touched on it as well, like, and for me as well. This is almost like a mini therapy session. Just sat there talking, and you forget the microphone's there, you forget the cameras there, and you just talk, and then sometimes you listen back and you go, you go, did I say that? Like,
and you guys have like really made it easy for me to open up as well. It's like I don't feel at all judged or anything by you guys, and it's really nice to be able to talk to other guys about it.
Yes, no, thank you for being really vulnerable and really open. It's really important. I think maybe this might be a nice, pleasant way for us to end
nearly an hour. So
flies, don't it? Absolutely flies.
We say every week, don't we?
We do, to be fair. But yeah, so thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully it won't be the last time.
And hopefully next week, obviously depends whether or not Baby Bowden is going to make an appearance.
What an inconvenience.
Yeah. You can always do it from the hospital, couldn't we?
We're screaming baby.
Yeah, just 1 second, Joe. We've got 5 minutes left. So we will hopefully, if anybody wants to come on, any questions they want, feel free to come on, and I will give you your hat next time I see you as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. Very nice.
Right.
See you soon.
Cheers, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you all.